Hey y'all, I'm Dan, and this is Kinfolk, Stories of Community and Connection. Joining us today is Heather Walker of Creek Walkers LLC. Heather turns forgotten creek glass into stunning jewelry and crafts. It's a story about creativity, sustainability, and giving old treasures a second life. Let's dive in. Hey Heather, welcome to Kinfolk, Stories of Community and Connection. I really appreciate you coming on.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How's your week been so far?
So far, so good. We're getting through it.
Well, we can go ahead and kick this episode off. If you want to start out with an introduction of you, who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Okay. Hi, I'm Heather. I started a little side business of making jewelry and crafts out of glass I had found in local creeks and rivers. I have a husband and a little boy who just turned 10. And when he was about 4, we were walking through creeks and I kept ending up with handfuls of glass. It was Coke bottle, mason jar, old glass. And I ended up with buckets and buckets of broken glass. My husband had told me that I needed to either do something with it or get rid of it, which meant it needed to go to the dump. Half out of spite, half out of craft. I was like, no, this is old glass. This is a Coke bottle that I found that's stamped from 1923. That's 101 years old.
Wow.
It's not things you find at retail stores. So it wasn't rounded on the edges. When I first got it, some of it's sharp, some of it I can just drill and jewel. But for the most part, it needed a little work with it. So I brought it home and I was like, how can I make sea glass? Oh, I don't want to say sea glass. But I try to stay away from this because I want people to know that it came from a creek in West Virginia. This is trash that I have found and I'm going to turn it into something that people are now wanting, especially with it being older glass. When I have some little ladies come up to my table and they'll see the tops of old canning jars, it's the cutest thing for them to talk about canning with their grandmas. We're talking like 1930s, 40s, I just enjoy finding the glass. I enjoy crafting the glass. I enjoy giving it a second chance in other homes. I'm always looking on porches when I drive by to see if anybody has my sun catcher hanging out.
Yeah. So with the glass, how you say that you started, you and your son would take walks in a creek and find that. Is that something that you started with him as kind of like a tradition, or does it kind of stem back before?
Well, the husband is a hunter and he wanted to look for antlers and he was going to take my son with me. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to be left out. And that's really how we got into the creek, was just kind of, I would stay in the creek and he would throw rocks and I just kept stepping over this glass that just, like I said, it was old. And Coke bottle, my mom, who's passed, worked at the Coca-Cola factory when it was in Canal City. And it's just a big part of my life. So when I do find Coke bottle, which is one of my favorite finds, it was one of those things that I knew that it needed to be recycled, reused, because if not, it was just going to end up in our dump. And there's no recycling in Charleston for glass that I know of.
So that is something I do want to talk about, is kind of like glass recycling, but that is something new to me. I did not know that there was a Coke factory in Canal City.
There was years ago. It's funny. And it's now the CAMC something. It's down by McDonald's. And the building is still there, but it's used for something else now. And it's crazy because I can still remember walking through the double glass doors, and there's so much that's left Canal City, but there's a lot that's still there. Sorry. Libby Owens was there as well. And that's the big hunks of the blue, which what Coke bottle was made of. And supposedly, I don't know if it's a legend or if it's true, but I've never found any that you can dig in yards and find this glass because they used to bury it. I would love to find some of that glass. Like, whose yard can I go dig up to find a big piece of this Libby Owens glass?
Like, to any listeners, if you're digging and you find this glass, call Heather and she'll come dispose of it for you.
I have quite a few people that bring me glass. Almost every show at this point now, somebody's bringing me a bag of either dirty or clean, I don't care, But if you clean it for me, thank you. If you don't, I'm gonna do it too. But I do. I mean, I have people call me all the time that from everywhere, locally to Charleston, Elkview, Malden. I don't know where the last lady was from, but she brought me a box of just glass. And glass, she's like, I'll have more. I walk and think of you all the time. And I was like, well, thank you. Because before she was just finding and collecting. And a lot of people tell me that they have it from their gardens or the creek, that they have mounds of this broken glass and don't know what to do with it. So I'm kind of just hopefully putting a spin on it to get it used at least twice.
I just was going to ask about when they would bury it. Were they trying to dispose of it, or what was the point of them burying it?
I think the situation, what I've heard from people at my craft shows, is where I've learned a lot of my information. Back in the day, there wasn't a dump. So people would go and dig a hole and bury it, or go to the creek or river and throw it in, and it's gone. Well, fast forward, due to erosion or just it tumbling down the river, is where I'm coming into play into this. Because like I said, I mean, with it being older, and I mean, I find Gatorade bottles that say the old glass Gatorade, Mountain Dew, like, it's just crazy the stuff that they used to put in glass that now is all plastic. And plastic is a big problem today. And even with the glass, it could be recycled and repurposed, as in you can pulverize it down to back into sand, which can be used for coastal restoration. I followed this girl on TikTok, and that's where I first saw that she has this massive machine. The city gives her, she brings glass upon glass. Actually, she has like glass mountain, which I'm quite jealous of, because there's so many things I can make out of all that. They grind it down, put it in bags, and when there's floods, it goes and helps. If that bag would bust open, it's okay to go back into the water, because once again, it's just fine. It's grit, it's sand almost again.
So you say like she has this big machine, and does it grind it down like really, really fine, like sand fine, or is it like? It
does. And there's different course of gravel, it's not gravel, course of the sand, from thick chunky pieces down to all the way to sand to fine powder that could be used back into glass. Glass is one of those things that's just renewable upon renew, that you can use it almost an infinite amount of times. But at this point, it's being just stuck in our creeks. A lot of the reason I started picking up is my little boy likes to walk barefoot. And I can't let him walk barefoot in a creek. Any creek in West Virginia. Everybody asks, where's my favorite creek? All of them. Every creek I've ever walked in has had glass in. I've made my husband stop because I've spotted blue. There was one time there was a green that was beautiful. I'm like, oh, it's either a bar soap or it's green. And it was this lime green. It was beautiful. And he went and got it for me.
It's like you've got like it's like hog vision or something. You like see it. And you gotta stop.
I've had people tell me that they don't see the glass in the creeks, but what I think from that is they just haven't found like their first piece, because once you get the eye for it, sometimes it takes me, a walk through, and then once I start, it's like, I mean, they'll be walking up the creek gone, and I found my little honey spot, and I'm kicking rocks and trying to find, that one more piece.
It's almost like if you're like mushroom hunting, like molly moochers, morels, or whatever people call them, and you know, like you don't see them for like an hour, and then like once you find the one, you kind of train and you find the second, the third. I do want to go back to what was her name? You talked to the girl on TikTok. What was her name? She had the big machine, the glass grinder.
We'll have to look her up. But yeah, she actually just upgraded her machines, and I'm like, hey, if you're like selling, if I can get my city to buy that, I will work that for you. Or not. I mean, it would help us all.
Exactly.
To be honest.
Which I was going to say, I wonder how she got one of the machines. How do you even get one of these machines?
No, they're huge. They're loud. The videos that I've watched, I mean, there's a process. They have to take the labels off, which I did that yesterday on about 8 wine bottles. It's not that fun. But it takes the labels off and all the rings, and then it sorts it from thickness, I think. Honestly, I'm not really sure the process of it. I wish I could remember her name. I will send that to you. I'll
Yeah,
look her
please
up.
do. I do want to go back to, it's kind of been floating in my mind with the name, Creek Walkers. Did that come from walking in the creek with your son?
It did. When I first started this craft, I actually had a different name and nobody got it. It was just for me. I tried to do, it was just really funny. Well, the more I thought about it, I was like, Creek Walkers. We walk in creeks and our last name is Walker. And after that, there's so many people that walk past my table, they're like, Creek Walkers. I'm like, well, I found this glass in local creeks and rivers. That turns their head. And they're like, yeah, then I'll say, and our last name's Walker. Oh, I get what you did there. It did. I like that it all went together, the Creek Walkers and our last name are Walker. It just kind of fit the theme better. Because the first time it was Heather's handmade, homemade crafts. Nobody knew what I was talking about. They're like, oh, this girl.
It almost seems like you kind of already have in a small scale sort of sense, like a glass recycling program, with the community. There's people who know you and bring you this glass, and of course you find it yourself, but they bring it to you and you recycle it into jewelry.
Everything.
And I bought a wind chime.
Yes, people, they really do bring me glass. I mean, I'm starting to accumulate a hoard again. I'm working through it because I'm trying to stock up for Christmas. People save wine bottles for me. I do like to get most of my glass out of creeks, but also if somebody has a bunch of wine bottles, I'd much of them come to me, let me break them, reuse them, then I'm sending, taking them right to the dump, or who knows? I mean,
Right.
throwing them in the river. You never know. Some people. But yeah, I mean, I do. I have one cute little guy that every show, I can't believe he still gets down in a creek, and I'm not going to tell him not to, but he does. He brings me a bag of glass, and he did give me a hunk of Libby Owens, and it's on my porch. He's like, I don't want it anymore. I'm like, really? This is like a big diamond to me. I mean, it's pretty much, there's value. People do want the Libby Owens glass, but there's no like value to it. He's like, no, I want you to have it. You do so much with glass. And I do. I didn't know there was so much to talk about with glass until I got into this.
Right.
Even the process of making glass, I kept putting in, like on Pinterest, creek glass, river glass. How can I make this more like the beach sea glass? And I mean, when I first started, I ruined a lot of glass because I thought I could put it in, this is what I saw, a cement mixer and some sand. We're going to like pretend it's the ocean. It tore it up. Now I do have a few tumblers that rumble, and I break most of the glass again and drill and jewel it.
So with tumbling, how you tumble the glass, how long does it usually, like if you have, I guess like a smaller piece of glass, or how long does it usually take to get a piece of glass to be smooth so you can work with it?
It really depends on how rounded you want the edges. I put glass in yesterday and I could check it today. It's probably not where I want it at, so I'll let it go for probably 3 or 4 days. But some glass, I broke a plate this lady wanted me to. It was a grandma's china plate. And what I did is I broke it down. I know. To necklace pendants and earrings for her sister, and 2 daughters. Because nobody really wanted the china, but the jewelry, they can kind of each have their own little piece, and it still kept, the grandma, who I think was like 98. With that plate, I was so afraid of over tumbling and taking the print off of the plate that it was like every 45 minutes I was out there just checking, making sure. Some plates like Blue Willow, I was putting all this stuff in my tumblers, and some things were tumbling off and some were not, and I could not figure out why, because the ones that were not tumbling off were baked into the glass, as to where everything that was coming off of it was just a painted on. And because I was putting it, like, orange is one of the hardest colors to find. And I bought orange. I'm like, well, we're gonna make some orange sea glass. And it was painted. I was like so disappointed. I'm like, what is this? So that's how it came in to figure out if it's baked into the glass, it will stay tumbled. It'll go all the way down, like, to nothing, to where it's very light with it. But then if it's painted on, you're going to get white or clear glass.
I do want to go back to, you used this word, was it Libby Owens, Libby Evans?
Libby Owens.
Libby Owens. I'm not really, what is that? Can you explain that? What does that mean?
Libby Owens was a factory in Canal City.
Oh, okay. It was
years ago.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they, I don't know how this glass got into the ground, because I used to live literally right next door to it. And I mean, like, as a child, like 5th, 6th grade. So I was outside a lot, playing in the yard, doing things, and never found any of this glass. That's why I was like, is this a legend? Somebody's pulling my leg with this. I didn't find any. But I guess what is there right now? I think Highland Hospital is where it used to sit.
Okay.
We're talking, like, I don't even know, before 1990, I think.
Okay.
Like, not 1900s, though. Like, the rest of the glass.
So now we've kind of talked a little bit about different events, and I did see you at June Fest. For upcoming events,
Yes.
are there any upcoming events that you'll be at that people can connect with you at?
I do. I have one show currently. 'Tis the season for me to get crazy and busy. Christmas is always. The Arts and Crafts Fair in November at the Civic Center put on from the Lions Club. I'll be there. That's November 15th, 16th, and 17th this year. It's like a week before its normal time. And I try to pick up another one here and there. It just really depends on life and everything
I
else
understand
in between.
that.
It seems they comes at you fast.
So aside from events that you're in, business-wise, are there any local events personally upcoming, or just ones regionally that you like to attend or that you're looking forward to?
I do. This coming season, the Etsy show that is Shop Small Saturday. I'm not sure the date of it this year, November. I love that show. It's a one-day show. It's crazy. It's fun. It's hectic. Before COVID, the people would just line forever and just snake around tables and booths and stuff. It's changed a little because of COVID. Even the Lions Club it's slowed down. But I think things are starting to kick back up, and people are, getting out there more. Pumpkin Festival will be coming soon. That's
Pumpkin Festival. Where's that? Is that in
down in Milton?
Yes.
It's big, and it's 3 days. I like bigger events, but when it's a 3-day event, that is so much. And I know people do it. I have friends that are crafters that they do shows 3 times a month. I'm like, how do you have I know. I would love to do that, but in the same breath, with every piece that I make, it's one of a kind. And sometimes I do get low on stock. Sometimes I don't have enough of what everybody's liking at that time, because it's rotated around from, I thought I was just going to do jewelry. And then I started with Christmas ornaments, and then I went to Christmas trees. Like, when I first started this, I remember somebody telling me that, don't worry, it's going to evolve. You don't know where it's going to go. And I'm like, nah, this is what I'm doing. And today alone, I think I drilled about 200 pieces of glass.
Oh, my goodness.
I will pay for it this evening. I broke glass yesterday to get a project going, and then today I drilled glass to finish up a project.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah, you just don't know what's going to sell at shows. Most of my stuff people really do like. When I do say found in a creek, that really does turn heads, because they think, I've had people say, I really like your rocks. And I'm like, oh, they're not rocks. And somebody called it something referring to like candy one time. I'm like, please do not put this in your mouth.
Oh,
it's
jeez.
Please don't. I know it's pretty and shiny, but we're not going to eat that.
Wow.
I know. I know. And I have had the few little hecklers of telling me how horrible it is that there's that much glass in the creeks, which I agree. And that's why every creek walk I try to get as much as I can out. I have a rolly cart that has a kitty litter container attached to it. I just couldn't carry it anymore. It's heavy. Once the end of the walk, my bucket is usually full and heavy, and I have to get it back to the car. So I made this little contraption, and I was at Sandstone Falls a couple years back, and this lady's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I'm collecting glass," and because I didn't paint my kitty litter bucket at first, and now it's got like my logo and some cute stuff on it, so it doesn't look like I'm carrying kitty litter around with me. It has a lid.
That's really
cool.
Another
thing. I was putting glass in this bucket and in my car, and mom brain, I'm like, oh my gosh, what if something happens? We get into a wreck, and I just put 5 gallons of broken glass into my car. But the litter that we buy has that lid, so it closes. And usually I'm not going too far, but it was one of those things I'm like, I literally just put 5 gallons of broken glass in the back seat of my car.
just crafty things like.
Yeah, you never know. Drill it, hang it onto something. My husband at first, it's funny because he doesn't always see what I see. So when I start making something and he's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds nice," and then finally I'll get finished and he's like, "Oh, I see." I'm like, "Well, you're part of the reason I even do this. Mm-hmm. You took me in the creek. You told me how to do something with it." So now he usually walks in front and he'll find like the blues or the real pretty greens or Coke bottles, and I'm like, "It's only because you're walking first." He's more excited to bring me glass instead of telling me that it's in the way now. So
is that creek walking? I know that kind of towards, when we get into colder months, it's one thing I kind of look forward to in the warmer months is being able to be outside and to be with nature. Is it therapeutic for you to, walk and collect glass and kind of like almost like meditation sort of way? You're collecting glass, you're out in nature, it's a good thing that you're doing. You're cleaning up the creek.
Yeah, I do. Honestly, our first walk of the year traditionally has been on January 2nd. It's worked out like that. We like when it's cold. I don't have to worry about bugs or snakes.
Oh, Lord.
It's, and the creeks, you just got to bundle up a little more. So we walk year round. We get our boots and our buckets and little shovels and take off. Everybody tells me different places that I can go. Little Creek Park. I went with a friend about a month ago and had found a pile of glass.
Oh my goodness.
And I had my little rolly cart. I'm like, oh, somebody's hooked me up and they don't even know it. They were probably just collecting it. To get out of the bottom of have you been to Little Creek? It's the first, if you pull in Little Creek and there's the softball field, it's the first little trails. And you go down, and you go down, and then you go down some more. So here I am with my rolly cart, and I'm trying to get out of there. Couldn't get any more glass in there. I'm shaking my bucket and made out. That's what I'm working with now, is that because there were so many just cool pieces. I like to find it in the creek already broken because the shapes are just so organic. They're so not me cutting and breaking them. Each one is different, and that's my favorite about it is there are no two pieces alike. Even when I make earrings, I tried very hard to make sure that they were perfect. And funny, my husband is the one that said, "Heather, people that buy your stuff and love your stuff like that it's not perfect."
Exactly.
And I'm like, oh, you're right. Don't tell him I said that.
Every place that we talk about and places where you can find her, see her jewelry, will be listed on the show notes on the website, so you'll be able to see all of that. I always just forget to mention that, so I'd like to throw that in there. I wanted to ask, we were talking about when you said walking in the colder months, there's no bugs, no snakes. Have you had any scares in the warmer months of like snakes or any kind of critter that's...
Oh, I haven't, which is a good thing. Now we have spooked up a baby fawn before, and that was super cute. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing here? And took off. And my husband has caught on his trail camps bear and bobcat, and we literally
Oh my
live,
goodness.
yeah, like 3 minutes from Rock Lake. So they're here, and it's you. No matter what, when you're in the woods, you need to be mindful of always. But no, I haven't had any scares on my end. Yeah, I'm sure it's there. I know they're there, but I hope they know that we're there to make sure they don't get little cut paws, or
Oh yes.
because I do take my kid, and for a long time, I mean, he was probably 4 when we started this, and I have a lot of people that come up to my craft shows that want to creek walk with me, and I will with anybody that's wanting to creek walk. I feel like I would like to organize something like the Coal River has the trash your yak, and they go and get all the tires out of the creek or the river
Oh, that's
down through
cool.
there, and that would be fun. I have been down there and walked at the Meadowbrook Park before, to maybe throw some buckets down and write glass only. I thought about doing that
Yeah.
at Little Creek. Somebody took the time to gather all that glass up, and the next flood, if I don't get it or somebody doesn't get it out, it's on its way back down still. So I thought about my little kitty litter containers and making a couple and just setting them places that I could go check on, to just keep it out, get it out of the creeks, pull it out, get it somewhere, even if I don't use it all, just to have it out. I think people would do that. I think they would see it, see that it's a good thing, and help out. I mean, somebody already made a pile. I don't see why they wouldn't just put it there or in my bucket.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good idea. You could, if you wanted to, you're not saying you have to, you could make like a community event or something, like plan it a few months in advance or something and let people know, like a public meetup, and you kind of just tell people what's going to happen and walk in the creek and clean glass out.
Yeah, or find a new one. People tell me all the time. There was somebody that had told me somewhere, I want to say towards Coonskin, he was like, it's the one on the bottom, it's the trail down at the bottom. I'm like, okay. He said there was so much glass that they don't even take their dog down there to walk anymore. And I think that's
Lord.
sad. Yeah, that they're not even getting to take their dog on something that obviously they like to do. I know I'm never going to get all the glass out of the creeks. I have a honey hole that I have cleaned this creek section, football field or longer.
Mm-hmm.
Every time it rains, there's more. Every time I don't know if it comes up from the bottom, if it's coming way up the creek. I'm not sure, but I've never been able to get it completely cleaned out. But I do know that it's in almost in every one. It has to be in all of our waters at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There's a show in January at the Civic Center, and it's called Winterfest, and it's about harvesting in West Virginia. And I wanted to get in on that show, but I don't have a food product. But the only reason I wanted to be in on that was because I have our waterways. I'm in them. If we can keep those clean and healthy, then also the things that we drink, water our plants, swim, bathe, play in, would all be part of a big circle of this recycle project.
There's a place though. I mean, because there's a lot of people around that I've heard talk about, in the Charleston area, who would like a kind of recycling program, kind of like that. And I have tons of Lord glass bottles in my basement from not wanting to throw them away, wanting to recycle them, or I need to give them to you so that you can put them to a
with
good
them.
use.
I know my husband would
But
love that.
I think it would be just, I'm telling you, it'll happen. Something will come out of it.
It would be nice to even maybe go downtown one night and give them a, I don't know, a trash can or a bin of some sort. I was a bartender, so I can tell you, I know they have glass. And just see what one night or one weekend regatta, which I don't know if they sold that alcohol there. But anything with glass that could be put into a spot and then taken and reused. Even with the flooding that happened was it March or April of this year? I think April of this year. We're new to this house. We've been here right at a year. So in April, when there's a flood through my front yard, I'm thinking, what could I have had? And a couple of sandbags, or
Right.
I don't know if it's called sandbags at that point, or if it's because it was glass. Those would have been great. It would have helped at least direct
Exactly.
the water, keep the water out a little. When Hoover had their whole thing, I mean, you just never know. I mean, you just never know when it could have been used.
Well, and I was kind of going to touch on that. I believe that you honestly live just right over the hill from me. And, driving through just that little stretch of road, it was, I mean, there were cars, turned upside on bridges and stuff.
Yeah.
So I know, like, when it gets to that point, but still being able to, protect your home,
happens so
like, at least have
fast.
some deter to.
To just direct it a different way, or to guide it out
Exactly.
of the roads. It covered straight in front of my house, and the other end of our road, yes, it was really bad. On our end, it just kind of like picked everything up and was flowing very quickly. Once it got to the road and I could see like tree branches that were massive down the middle of the road, I'm like, this is an issue. This is a problem. Like, we're gathering the
Right.
kid and the animals to go uphill. And then we had a drought all summer. I don't know how that happened.
That's crazy.
Like, it went from one extreme to the other.
So before I forget, for the listeners who are listening, it's always good to hear, where can people find you, website, social media, so that they can see your products and support you?
I have a Facebook page. It is Creek Walkers Upcycled Creek and River Glass. TikTok is where a lot of my videos are. It's just easier to make them, and I feel like if I can show you, you'll see what I'm trying to talk about. Because when I talk about creek glass, people don't. It's not a thing. If you look on Pinterest or anywhere, it's not a thing. So we're gonna try to make it a thing. TikTok is slow, but that's about it. I don't have a shop yet, and I'm not in a storefront.
Yeah.
Because I've been in probably 2 stores before. If people see it and they just think it's little gems, I know that's what's happened, because once I'm at a craft show and say found in a creek, that's I tell people who are in booths beside me, I'm like, I'm really sorry you're getting tired of hearing me say found in a creek.
Just, like, record it and get it put on like an audio player where it just continuously says, found in a creek, found in a creek.
I thought about trying to make some sort of little video
Yeah.
to set up and show us in the creek and how the process of some things. I'm so bad at taking pictures of my process. I try to remember. There's always like the main one I forget because I'm so excited to get done. Happens all the time. So I'm working on that to show people exactly what I'm talking about, because I know they don't always get what I'm trying to say. But once I have a product and it's shiny, they love it.
I do want to do the rapid fire questions if you're up for them.
Okay, I'm ready.
So I'm going to make it easy on you. I only have, instead of the usual 5, I just have 4. So you're getting off the hook a little bit easy. So again, just kind of brain picking questions. You can say the first thing that comes to your mind, and then we can chat a little bit about it if you want. Okay. So question 1 is coffee or tea?
Both. It's both. I know. I'm sorry. I was not a coffee drinker until COVID, but sweet tea has been the love of my life since I was like 8. But coffee got me through COVID, and now it's such a morning routine. Both. You're gonna be
I
like,
totally
"Great."
agree with you on that. No, it's because sometimes, like in the mornings, I have to have my coffee, and then sometimes in the evening, I'll have tea, or even going to bed, like the little sleepy time tea or whatever.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, hibiscus, ginger, something, chamomile. Yeah. Shot of honey. Local
Exact.
honey.
Question number 2 is, are you currently reading or watching anything?
I am currently reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the third
I love
wheel.
it.
I homeschool my 4th grader, so that's actually, he's reading that to me, but we're both in it. We did start a Steve Irwin book this morning too, so those are my.
That's cool.
Yeah, we had just went to Columbus last week, and there were stingrays and this whole thing, and I was like, well, let's try this book out. So yeah, he loves to read. He's a very good reader.
Good. All right, and I think this is question 3. So as a small business owner, what does support look like to you?
Sharing, liking, showing up, anything. I love to give gifts. I love it when I see people out and they say, hey, I saw this and thought of you. Or I have had people who can sell my product better than me because they love what I'm doing. To me, that is the best, that can come from this, is people loving what I'm doing and wanting to be helpful with it.
Yeah.
So supporting is just showing up, being there for the person to help out. I did not think this is where I was going to go with this. I thought I was literally just collecting handfuls of rubbish. And the next thing you know, I'm doing 4 to 5 shows a year. That's just crazy to me.
Last question is, when you aren't working, where might we find you? You can say in West Virginia, like essentially, where is your favorite place in West Virginia?
I love the Greenbrier River. I love it. Sandstone, anywhere honestly on the water, in the woods, all of it. I prefer to be in a tent or hopefully an RV one day, but we have tent camped with a dog. That's fun. But all of it, I mean, West Virginia is so beautiful, so overlooked. There's so much here. So pretty much anywhere there's water, blue skies, even rainy days. I mean, it doesn't matter. All of it is just, I think West Virginia is one of the most beautiful states that we have. I lived in Alaska for a year, and
my goodness,
it's beautiful there as well. But this is home. I was there. I went up in January, and come fall, I was like, it doesn't smell like fall here. And they're like, fall doesn't smell. And I'm like, no, fall absolutely has a smell. It's something to do with the leaves and the wind and October or something.
Yes.
It's something. There's that smell of fall that I missed so much. And this is home. I mean, we love it here. There's something different about West Virginia, being friendly, welcoming, the whole 9 with West Virginia.
I agree. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Anything else that is any lasting advice? Anything before we sign off?
No, I don't think so.
I appreciate, being able to be in your space virtually and you taking the time out to chat with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I definitely am excited to see what this comes from this, and I'm just excited about all of it. I'm ready to get the crafting season rolling too.
Well, I hope you have a great evening, and listen, I can feel it. Something good is going to come from what you do. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hopefully one day we'll have the big machine downtown and people will be bringing me boxes of broken glass. I think that would be so much fun. 5-year goal.
Right? We can make it happen.
Everything that we chatted about today can be found in the show notes on the website. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd appreciate it if you left a review. As always, stay kind and don't be a stranger.